Ronan reunites with Elizabeth and Azbel after their brutal battle, while the Dragon Boy finally understands his mother's lesson about true greatness. Soon, the legendary Archmage Lorahan arrives, shocking everyone with his presence and his hilarious nickname for the Dragon Boy. But Karaka warns that Seraphina may still be alive. Meanwhile, the hooded man awakens Eveline Droza from her icy prison, where she discovers her father waiting for her. We are told that the Droza family is known as a family of bone-chilling cold and savage monsters. Because of their isolated environment, they completely rejected outside forces and devoted themselves solely to mastering the ultimate form of ice magic, believing it to be the greatest wish of their family. That is how the Droza family came to be known in the present day. However, the Droza family of the past was very different. Even back then, contact with outsiders was rare, but that was simply unavoidable because of their harsh environment. In fact, the people of the North formed strong bonds with one another in order to survive the brutal cold together. The members of House Droza also led their family by shedding blood and sweat for the peace and survival of their people, rather than pursuing magical achievements. As a result, their walls stood firm against both the bitter cold and the savage beasts. They demonstrated the dignity and strength of a true great family of the North. However, they also carried a mission that remained unknown to the outside world. Long ago, an unnamed seeker who pitied those suffering from the bitter cold created a treasure by gathering the very coldness of this land. That treasure contained the secret formula of primordial ice magic. If its power were fully mastered, even the harsh winter itself could be brought under one's control. It was an essence that contained winter itself. It was known simply as winter. The sacred duty of the Droza family was to protect this priceless relic. United under this mission, the Droza family seemed destined to remain unbroken forever. But one evil created an irreversible crack within the family. A witch named Seraphina de Clazy, who was searching for power to strengthen the church, discovered winter. She found the relic breathtakingly beautiful. Her desire for it quickly became an endless and maddening greed. The scheme born from that greed proceeded quietly and coldly. Seraphina had mastered the arts of mental manipulation, from possession to brainwashing. Because of this, infiltrating the North was extremely easy for her. She began by controlling the residents. Then she took control of the Knight Commander who protected the family. After that, even the high-ranking retainers fell under her influence. Eventually, even the head of House Droza became one of her puppets. Everything gradually fell into Seraphina's hands, and eventually she reached winter. However, her plan encountered a serious problem. First, the power of winter could only be used by a direct descendant of Droza, who possessed a strong affinity for ice and a highly evolved body. Second, winter would only respond to the genuine will of a member of the Droza family. An extreme emotional outburst was also required to act as the catalyst. In other words, even with all of her puppets under her control, Seraphina could never use winter herself. So she changed her plan. Instead of using mind control magic, she decided to twist the very roots of the Droza family. She would redefine their entire mission according to her own desires. And after many long years had passed, the Droza family was completely transformed. They devoted everything to creating a vessel capable of containing winter. They firmly believed that becoming a vessel was their destiny from birth. They believed it was the very reason for their existence. But there was one thing even Seraphina could not predict, something that refused to disappear, even within the freezing cold. That something was love, and the current head of House Droza, Azbel Droza, awakened that love once again. Azbel held both of his children tightly in his arms. With tears in his eyes, he made a desperate vow to protect them. He knew that, at the very least, he had to protect his two children from their own family, even if it cost him his life. With that determination in his heart, Azbel went to meet Seraphina. Seraphina greeted him as the head of the family, Azbel Droza, and acknowledged his arrival. Azbel bowed deeply before her and respectfully greeted her as the great mother and the spirit of their family. Seraphina accepted his greeting and called him her loyal servant. She then asked why he had requested an audience. Azbel silently thought about the situation within House Droza. He knew there was no path forward as long as the Great Mother remained in control. As long as Seraphina existed, no one could rebel against her. If he wanted to bring change, he needed to bring in outside power. He needed the power of a great family so strong that even the Great Mother could not touch them. Azbel presented his proposal. He suggested selecting members of the Droza family and sending them into Akalusia as spies. Seraphina listened carefully to his plan. Azbel confirmed that this was exactly what he intended. He explained that Akalusia was a family comparable to Grancia, and that it possessed the firm trust of the imperial family. if they planted their seeds within Akalusia now, then when the stars eventually arrived, those seeds would bloom fully. He also explained that Akalusia accepted people based solely on talent. Because of that, infiltrating the family should not be too difficult. Seraphina listened to everything with a faint smirk. She considered the proposal a good idea and gave Azbel permission to proceed as he wished. She left the entire matter in the hands of the family head. Azbel respectfully accepted her decision and promised to do his utmost. For the first time, Azbel felt relieved. Even though everyone else had fallen under Seraphina's control, he still had one person he could trust. His eldest son, Habel, believed in his father's will. Azbel believed that Habiel would surely be able to melt this frozen winter. Later, Azbel spoke privately with his eldest son, Habel. As his father, Azbel felt ashamed for placing such a heavy burden on his son's shoulders. Habel smiled and reassured his father. He insisted that there was no need for Azbel to feel ashamed. Habel understood that this was something that had to be done. He was determined to do it for the future of House Droza. He was also determined to do it for Eveline's tomorrow. Habel promised that he would definitely open a path toward their family's future. But only one day later, Azbel's hope was shattered. Seraphina appeared before him, carrying the severed head of his eldest son, Habel. Azbel was completely terrified. Seraphina grinned coldly, as she reminded him that he was fortunate to have more than one child. Because of that, he still had one more chance. She warned Azbel that she hoped he would not disappoint her twice. She also made it clear that, otherwise, his wife's hands would be stained with their daughter's blood as well. Azbel broke down completely. He cried loudly and uncontrollably, while desperately holding the severed head of his son in his hands. That day, Azbel finally realized the truth. There was no escaping this winter. Continuing to struggle would only cause him to lose everything. He had to prevent that from happening. There was only one option left. Eveline had to become the vessel for the essence known as winter. She had to become someone whom no one would ever dare touch. With that decision, Azbel restrained Eveline. He tied her hands and feet to a chair, leaving her completely helpless. Eveline cried in fear as she looked at her father. She told him that she was scared. Azbel stood before his daughter while creating powerful mana in his hand. His expression was filled with anger, pain, and desperation. He shouted at Eveline and told her that Akalusia had killed her brother. He called them wicked bastards and reminded Eveline that they had even taken her brother's life. Then Azbel ordered Eveline to take the essence into her body. He demanded that she absorb winter. He told Eveline Droza that she had to do it for the revenge of their family. Azbel released his overwhelming mana upon his own daughter. The immense power flooded Eveline's body. Eveline screamed in unbearable pain. She desperately begged her father to stop. She cried out to her father and apologized. She promised that she would do better. But the pain continued to overwhelm her. Eveline cried that it hurt terribly. She desperately pleaded for it to stop. Yet Azbel could not stop. He gritted his teeth while tears streamed down his face. He was hurting his own daughter, but he believed that this was the only way left to protect her. And so, the cruel process continued. 10 years later, everything had changed. Eveline Droza had successfully become the vessel of winter. The young girl who had once cried in fear had now become the vessel containing the essence of winter itself. Eveline was restrained in chains. She remained bound and unable to escape. Before her sat Seraphina. The Great Mother looked at Eveline with a cold, satisfied grin. And with that sinister smile, Seraphina welcomed Eveline.